So I know it's a little grainy because I'm doing this on my phone, but this is the Caribbean in the Virgin Islands at night. That is the island of St. Thomas. And I just think that it looks absolutely just as stunning at night as it does during the day. But yeah, this is my little slice of paradise at night. Hey everybody, welcome back to Disappointing Your Demons. My name is Ron, a grateful recovering alcoholic. Have a little change of venue tonight. Today is November 7th, 2024. Is one day before my 7-month sobriety month-iversary, I guess, for lack of a better term. And I felt compelled to make this video for several reasons. It's something that was actually talked about in an AA meeting that I was in the other night, and something that I don't think that we focus enough on a regular basis. And again, let me start by saying a little disclaimer that I am not a health professional, I am not a doctor, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a therapist. I am just a guy who drank too much and lives on a rock in the middle of the Caribbean. So with all that being said, if you were to tell me 7 months ago that my life would be the way that it is now, I would have told you you were absolutely freaking nuts, and that I really thought that I was just going to, drink myself to death, and that was literally as good as it was going to get for me. I didn't have any intention of stopping until I had to, until I had to really literally make the decision of sober up or die. And that whole thing was just something that kind of happened, and I did make a conscious decision to quit drinking. But back to my point of this video, I always say that I don't, in all my videos, that I don't advocate for Alcoholics Anonymous or any one particular recovery program in general. However, Alcoholics Anonymous, as I've said before, is what I use and the group that I am in and the fellowship and the program that I prescribe to. There has been some discussion amongst a couple of people that I am relatively close with in my circle of AA people that making these videos goes against one of our traditions, and that tradition is the 11th tradition. I'll just read it real quick. There's 12 steps and 12 traditions in the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, and tradition 11 is a public relations policy is based on attraction rather than promotion. We need always maintain personal anonymity at the level of press, radio, and film. Now, some people have told me, hey, that YouTube and everything constitutes, film or whatever. But I also don't think that when this book was written and these traditions were written, that they ever obviously could have predicted or had YouTube in mind, or any other form of social media. My opinion on that is, I think it's a personal decision that if you are an Alcoholics Anonymous to remain anonymous. I do not remain anonymous. I preach my sobriety loudly from the mountaintops now, and I think I've said before that I saw this thing that I recover loudly so that others don't die quietly, and I will continue to do that. I will never out anybody that's in AA. I won't use actual names of people that are in AA. I don't even know most of these people's last names, so I couldn't call them out even if I wanted to, which I don't. But anyway, So I wanted to say that because I'm not quote unquote promoting AA. It's just what I use. And I've managed to stay sober for 7 months after being on the brink of death. And I also used it for 7 years when I lived back in the States, and it kept me sober for those 7 years. So with all that being said, I want to talk a little bit about the newcomer. And we all start with a day one. You know, we all start with that decision to surrender, that decision to put the poison down, put the bottle down, and start getting healthy and start healing. And so I want to go back to the start of my recovery journey. And I'm talking way back. I'm not talking about just 7 months ago, or the first time I walked into the halls of AA when I really actually meant it back when I was in Boston. I'm talking about my very first introduction to Alcoholics Anonymous. And that was actually when I was a probably 11-year-old, 12-year-old child, going to the Parkway Methodist Church in Milton, and I was in the church youth group. And the church youth group, our meeting times coincided with the I believe it was the Saturday evening Alcoholics Anonymous group that rented out the fellowship hall. And that was my first time ever hearing of the term or the title Alcoholics Anonymous or AA. And I remember, we always kind of had to keep it down or be respectful during our youth group meeting times, because the Alcoholics Anonymous meeting was going on. And I remember having to go upstairs for some reason from the church basement and walking past the hall that they were meeting in, and just seeing just a group of people sitting in chairs listening to somebody talk, and just thinking wonder what that's all about. I didn't really kind of grasp the whole concept of being an alcoholic back then, and didn't really give it much thought, but I knew that there was such a thing as AA. And then so, when I was 21, I got popped for a DUI, and it was basically like my first jackpot, as we call them in AA, and got court ordered to go to AA meetings. I had to go to one AA meeting a week, I think. And I was supposed to, I had this little slip I had to fill out and have signed by the secretary of the AA meeting. And so I went, and I only went a few times until I smartened up and got the bright idea that it's Alcoholics Anonymous. They can't they can't actually go and see or talk to people at Alcoholics Anonymous meetings to make sure that I was there. Also, my DUI was in Maryland, and so I had to mail my stuff to the probation officer down in Maryland, so it's not like he was ever going to check up on me anyways. So I would just have my friends sign I would look at the meeting list and just put down this is the meeting I went to, and had one of my friends sign the slip, and I mailed that in every month, and my probation officer was none the wiser. But the few that I did go to was I went. I didn't want to be there. They could tell I didn't want to be there, and I sat in a table in the very back of the hall and didn't pay attention to anything that was going on. But it wasn't. I remember thinking it wasn't what I expected. People were sitting there, they were chatting, they were talking, drinking. I expected a bunch of miserable old men just sitting there and kind of yelling at each other about being a drunk. And it wasn't that at all. But anyway, and then fast forward to when I really started my journey and trying to get sober. And I want to say this video is for the newcomer, but it's also for the person who has relapsed and is coming back, or for the person that is not quite sure if they're there yet, or are hesitant to start on their journey because they just don't know, what the hell it's all about. And just for a little bit more background, I will tell the story of my time in detox and the rehab facility that I went to. It was at that point one of the lowest points in my life. I I couldn't, I went, and while I couldn't believe that this is where my life had gotten to, at the same time, I kind of went there and I was like, I guess this makes sense. I guess, it makes sense that I ended up here for some reason. I felt that way. And it was an interesting experience. Like, I got there, the first day I got there, I was so sick and hungover and miserable, and so weren't so many other people. But it was interesting because over the course of, I forget how many days, I think I was there for 10 days? I was there for a little over a week. And just seeing the transformation of everybody, like, that got there roughly around the same time that I did, going from being sick and hungover, and of course there was other addicts there, like heroin addicts and stuff. And the first days they're dope sick, and they're puking and shitting everywhere, and that part of the memory is not the best. Like, I remember walking into the bathroom, I had to go, and there's this kid just curled up on the floor of the bathroom, just shivering and shaking and puking all over, and, there was shit everywhere. And I was like, wow, okay, I guess I'll go use another bathroom. But like, I remember feeling like so bad for him. And anyway, but there's a couple memories from detox that stand out. And one was my first like meeting. Like, they have meetings in detox, and they're set up just like any normal AA meeting. And this one particular guy came in, and I could tell, like, he started talking about AA and recovery and the big book, and throwing all this stuff out there, and a lot of it was just like freaking, might as well have been Latin, because I just really didn't understand. But my overall impression of this guy was that he really cared. He cared, and he told his story. And to look at this guy, like, you would never have known that he was as bad off as he was when he first got sober. But the one thing that he said, and it really kind of hit me, even though it didn't stick in the short term, was that 24 years ago, however many years ago it was that he said, but we'll just say 24. He goes, I was sitting in one of those chairs just like you. He goes, I went from being the guy that had to keep a full glass of vodka on his nightstand so that when I started shaking and everything in the middle of the night, that I could take care of it, and then get up in the morning and take my first drink and puke it up, and then take my second drink and be okay. But the point is that he said that what hit me was, he was like, 24 years ago I was sitting in the same chairs as you. And I was like, wow. And he's like, there's a way out. And then of course he went through all like the stats and stuff, like, look to your left, you look to your right, some of you guys aren't going to be here, in the next year. And that stuff always kind of like just flew over my head, or like I just didn't really pay attention to it, because I'm not like really like a numbers guy or like a stats guy. But I mean, I guess obviously it did hit some sort of place in my brain, because I'm still remembering it to this day. And then I also remember too, like, one thing, if you are going to detox, you have been, or whatever, two sickies don't make a welly. Let's just say that. Like, do not get into the detox relationships, do not get into the detox marriage, or or the rehab relationships, like they don't work. Like you're all fucked up there. Like you have no business fucking trying anything of the sort. Like you're not gonna meet your forever person in detox. You're all there for a reason. Focus on the getting well, as opposed to the the pretty young thing walking past you and whatever, because we're all there for a reason. Yeah, I mean that should just be a given. But another memory that sticks out in my mind from detox was this guy, and I forget his name, but let's just call him Dave. Now let's call him Mike. Mike's a better name for this purpose. But we were all got there around the same time. We were all getting ready to be kind of graduate from detox, or however you want to put it. And this guy Mike, come to find out that he had been a singer in a pretty popular band in Boston in the in the 90s, and me having been in the Boston music scene for a while and a musician myself, and a few other people there were musicians as well. Surprise, surprise, a bunch of musicians in detox. We were out at the little gazebo where we were allowed to go out for our hourly or whatever smoke break. And I don't even know if you can smoke cigarettes or if they even do that at detox anymore. But when I went, you smoked cigarettes. You had cigarette breaks, and your loved ones or whatever would bring you a couple of packs, and the nurses would keep it in this little room. Oh, and that's the other thing about detox. Don't fuck with the nurses. The nurses have all the power in the detox, not the doctors, not the psychologists, not the nurses. And they hold all the power. And if you fuck with them, they'll fuck with you back. I'm just gonna say that. And they're there, and they don't make nearly what they should, and they put up with us assholes day in and day out. And but they care. And they know the ones that are there that mean it, the ones that are trying, and they'll take good care of you. But if you fuck with them, well, it's a whole different story. But anyways, back to what I was saying about the smoke break in the gazebo. Oh, the reason I said that is because they have the cigarettes. So if you fuck with them, one of the ways they fuck with you back is they, oh, sorry, we lost your cigarettes, and the other guys weren't allowed to give people cigarettes. You had to have your own. For whatever reason. Anyway, so we're out. It was one of the last ones, and it's pitch black out, and it's a little chilly, and this guy just kind of starts humming this song, and it was a Journey song. It wasn't "Don't Stop Believing," but it was a Journey song, and he starts kind of humming it, and so one person kind of started slapping their leg, and then I remember I was sitting on the banister, and I started doing a little beat on the banister, and then he just lets the freaking pipes go, and he's singing, and then some other people join in, start singing along, and next thing you know, it's like a freaking concert out there, but a cappella. And I remember when he finished the song, he stopped singing, and because we were in the woods, and all you could hear was the closing notes of his song just echoing through the woods. And I think I got discharged the next day, but that memory is stuck with me for, what is it now? How old am I? When did I go to detox? I was about 32, so 15 years. 15 years later, I still remember like it was yesterday. And then I got out of detox, and how does this tie into the newcomer? Well, detox, and you make the best of it, what you can make of it. That there are some good things that happen in detox. It's not all scary. It's not all like you're in there with a bunch of freaking, killers or criminals or anything like that. I mean, you are in there with like criminals sometimes, but like you're all there for a reason, and you're all trying to get better. And believe me, like when people are not like under the influence, they were all like, I mean, there was not a person there that like I did not think was like that I didn't think was like a good person at heart, you know. There's some people there that, when they were first coming off of whatever they were on, whether it was alcohol or drugs or whatever, that yeah, they were a little edgy, a little scary sometimes. But once and they kind of like, they don't lump the newcomers in with the people that have been there for a few days. Like they keep them all separate for the most part. Like you're all like rotating in and out. And point is though, it's not all scary. It's not all bad. Like I do have some good memories from detox, as funny as that sounds. This video, sorry, this might go on for a little bit longer. I've made a couple of long videos lately, but they're as long as they need to be, because I need to get the message out and what I want to say. God, this lighting sucks. But anyway. And I remember though going to the sober living facility, as we called them back then, halfway house. But I remember going to the halfway house and kind of being, nervous and scared about that too, because, here I am going from having lived in this like, nice, beautiful house that I bought with my, for my family and everything, going from that, having the big yacht and the swimming pool and the barbecues, to now I'm going to be living with, literally 20-something freaking dudes that are trying to get sober and stay sober and get their life back together. And, so it was a little daunting there. But I remember getting there and just everybody welcoming me and hugging me, or, shaking my hand, because I'm not the biggest hugger. But like everybody smiling and welcoming me. And I'm like, oh, all right, well, maybe this is okay. And they actually had AA meetings there, and we had to, one of the rules was we had to go to AA meetings every night. And there was like a lot of other rules, but it really, again, really wasn't, it was more in my head that, it was more in my head, the fears that I had about going to this halfway house. And the guy who ran it, this guy, Mike, that is actually his first name, but he was a great dude, a recovering heroin addict himself, and just a great dude, cared about all of us. He was like a father figure to all of us, even though I think he was only like maybe like 10 years older than me. But like I looked up to the guy and really respected what he was doing, even though like I knew kind of early on that I was not sticking around. And decided to go out, and afterwards, after about a month of living there, or maybe it was like 2 months, like decided to go out and do what we call more research. Which brings me to my point of when I really got it, and when I really surrendered, and when I really needed help. I knew there was a place to go. Like when I was there in the halfway house and freaking going to these meetings, like you're gonna get bombarded with a lot of stuff that you're really not gonna understand. Like they have signs everywhere with all the AA sayings, and it's like, live and let live, and let go, let God, one day at a time. There's gonna be like the 12 traditions and the 12 steps on a big fucking thing. And but I didn't really like pay attention to all of it, because I had gotten it in my head already that I was going back out. And but one thing that I did hear over and over again was when they hand out chips at these meetings. And again, this is a long time ago, but at in-person meetings, a lot of them, they'll hand out chips for different lengths of sobriety, and they'll have usually from day 1 to 29 days, and then every month they have a chip. But the one thing that I kept hearing was, they always said, the most important chip of all, 24 hours to 29 days, new or just coming back, no shame. and people would get up and go get their chip. And this is important to the story in a little bit too, but they'll go up and get their chip, and they're all different colors, and this one happens to be a white chip. And people would get it, and everybody would clap and hoot and holler and be happy about it. And it didn't click at the time, but fast forward to when I actually meant it and wanted to get sober and was just completely beaten down. I think I mentioned it before, but when I went to my very first AA meeting after detoxing, again, but I did this time by myself in my apartment, which I don't recommend. I've done it a few times, and like I said, I'm not an odds or statistics guy, but when you start getting into delirium tremens, without medical intervention, there is a 40% chance that you will die. And I've beaten those odds for whatever reason, and I'm going to use the word God. So if you don't like it, well, this is my channel and tough shit. I'm going to talk about them. But for whatever reason, my higher power, who I choose to call God, has seen fit that I made it through. And anyways, I went to my very first AA meeting, and I really meant it. And I was beat down. I had lost so much weight because I wasn't eating, and I literally looked like a shell of my former self. And I walked into those halls, and my buddy, who I had been in the halfway house with, was there as a greeter, and he saw me, and he just looked, and he kind of smiled a little bit, whatever, but he stuck out his hand and he said, "Welcome. We saved a seat for you." And I was just like, wow, like practically in tears, just like, because nobody was welcoming me. And here I am, the newcomer, officially the newcomer. And he brings me in there, but when it came time to get that chip, he sat next to me the whole time. And when it came time, he was calling out, the person who was running the meeting was calling out the lengths of sobriety, and they did the whole 24 hours, 29 days, knew we're just coming back. He says, "Go get your chip." And I said, "I don't want to go get my chip," because I was embarrassed. And he just leans over to me, and he's like, "Go get your fucking chip." And all right. And I got up, and I got my chip, and they gave a handshake and a hug. And the people there knew me from my previous times of going to different AA meetings in the area. And the fucking place just erupted, clapping and, "Yeah, Ron, good job." And man, I tell you, like, what a great feeling in a fucking time when I had no great feelings. Everything was shit. And I remember going into this meeting too, and everybody there is smiling and shaking hands and hugging and laughing and sipping their coffee. And I'm literally thinking, like, what the fuck do you assholes have to be so goddamn happy about? Like, seriously, fuck you. Like, my life is a fucking wreck right now. Our lives we're alcoholics. Like, why are you so fucking happy? Well, I tell you why. And it took me, a while. But, because they got it. They get it. They're healing. They're doing the work. Their lives, which had, if you, step one of Alcoholics Anonymous is admitted we were powerless over alcohol and that our lives had become unmanageable. All right? And they've all admitted that they're all past the step one, but we all start with that step one. Anyway, so I grabbed my chip, and then, I start going, that kid that shook my hand and everything became my sponsor. And there's a thing that they suggest that you do in AA when you first get into AA. and that's do 90 meetings in 90 days. So that's a meeting a day. It's an hour. And my buddy, who became my sponsor, started taking me to the meetings, and he would not take no for an answer. Like, he had a family of his own and everything, and he had his own responsibilities, and he had his own problems with alcohol, and but he wouldn't take no for an answer. And he would pick me up every day after he got out of work, and we would go to a meeting, and I did 90 and 90. And I remember, though, like, getting towards like 30 days, whatever, just being like, how many meetings do I freaking gotta go to? Like, I mean, 99, but this is like excessive. And he just said to me, he goes, well, how often did you drink? And I was like, well, every day, obviously. He goes, okay, so you go to a meeting every day then? And I said, but, freaking, we gotta go here, it's an hour. And he goes, okay. How many hours did you spend sitting at a bar, drinking? I was like, all night. Like, I'd get to the bar at like 8 o'clock, if I can sit there and close the place out most nights. Or if I didn't do that, I'd get home from work and I would sit in my easy chair and I would drink until I passed out. And he said, okay, so an hour isn't that bad. And you know what, you're right. And then in our talking, the topic of newcomers came up. And he said, the reason that we care so much about newcomers is A, we all start with a day one. But B, you newcomers remind us of where we were, whether it's a year ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. You remind us of where we were, and you keep that fresh at the front of our minds. I said, huh. That's a interesting take on it. And after a while of sobriety, I got it. I was like, huh. Every time I would see a newcomer come in, I'd be like, I was that guy. I was right where he was. And so, but 7 years goes by and I come down here and I relapse. Now, you'll hear a lot of talk in AA about that alcoholism or drug addiction is a disease. You'll hear other people say that it's not a disease, it's a mental disorder. You'll hear it's the same thing when you ask one person, or ask 10 people about their thoughts on God, and you'll get 10 different answers. Or ask 10 different people their thoughts on addiction, and you'll get 10 different answers. I personally think it's somewhere between a disease and a disorder. I also think that when Alcoholics Anonymous was founded back in 1939, that the science didn't really have an explanation, or there wasn't really any real research or ability to research what addiction is or how it affects the brain. So they kind of, and also Alcoholics Anonymous didn't exist before that, so they were kind of winging it as they went along too. And if you know anything about Alcoholics Anonymous, it was founded in 1939 by Bill W., who was a stockbroker and then Dr. Bob, who was a physician and alcoholic, and they actually pushed for it to be classified as a disease. You'll hear it called an allergy, that you have an allergy to alcohol. Again, I think the terminology hasn't aged well, just because, again, it was 1939 and they didn't have really an understanding of how some things worked. But anyway, and another interesting thing is that when they first started Alcoholics Anonymous, they literally went around and found alcoholics in insane asylums and hospitals, and they didn't have the big book, and they just went around and they talked, and they just gave the message that, hey, look, it worked for us. It can work for you too. You just got to do what we do. You hear this a lot too. If you want what we have, then you got to do what we do. And anyway, so back to my relapse, and it was a doozy. It was 4.5 years I went back out, and I surrendered. I decided that I needed to quit. I didn't really decide. I didn't have much of a choice, but I quit drinking, and I detoxed again. And this time around, though, I knew that there was a program out there. I knew there was a solution. I knew there was a place that I could go. And I had yo-yoed in and out and managed to make friends with this one guy who's now my sponsor. And it helps me out. But anyway, I knew that there was a place to go, and I texted him, and I literally said, I surrender. I can't do this anymore. And he said, he says, are you okay? And I said, I've been on a bender and he goes, for however long, and he just goes, yeah, no shit. He's like, but are you ready? And I said, I'm ready. And I do mostly Zoom meetings down here because just of location and availability of meetings and my schedule and everything. But Zoom meetings, in my opinion, are a godsend because there's a meeting any time of the day, 7 days a week, any hour, even on the half hour, you can find an AA meeting on Zoom. And I feel like the fellowship is just as strong on Zoom meetings. You'll have some of the old timers that'll tell you, oh no, in-person meetings are where it's at and Zoom's bullshit. Well, you know what? You started going to AA meetings when all you had was a rotary phone. So, I shut up. Don't tell me how to do my recovery. So back to the newcomer. I think that even like as a newcomer, it's even easier and less frightening nowadays to get into AA or any recovery program because of technology. Like it can be as anonymous or not anonymous as you want it to be, and you can also especially with the Zoom meetings, depending where you go, you're never going to bump into these people. You'll go into the Zoom meeting and you'll see them for the hour that you're in the meeting, and then you'll go and there's no chance you're going to bump into them. So it's really really anonymous. You just put in your first name, last initial. But one of the scariest things I think for the newcomer, and I know it was for me, is actually getting up and saying for the first time, hi, my name's Ron and I'm an alcoholic. Because that makes it fucking real. Really does. It makes it so real. The first time I said it and I meant it, I was like, holy shit. This is the real deal, man. I knew long before I got into AA that I was a freaking alcoholic. But actually saying it and admitting it to a fucking room full of strangers, essentially, is really, really difficult and really, really scary. But I can guarantee you 100%, and I mean this, once you say it that first time, it's like a freaking, elephant is lifted off your shoulders. It's like, wow, okay, now I've done that. Now I've admitted it. Now I've said it. And the more you say it, a lot of people say, oh, I don't like to label myself, or I don't like, whatever, fuck off. You don't like to, there's a lot of things that you probably don't like to do or are uncomfortable with, but they got you to where you are. So, your way and your best thinking got you to where you are. Why not try it just a different way? And as you'll hear in the halls of AA a lot too, try it for 30 days. If you don't like it, there's the door. We'll refund you twice your misery, because that's another reality and another fact, that every time you relapse, it's twice as bad as it was before. And people say, oh no, that's not true. Yeah? Okay. Well, it's a disease of progression, and it just keeps getting worse and worse. And, you know, where you might have been drinking a 12-pack a day before, pretty soon you'll find yourself that you're drinking a freaking case. Or next thing you know, you're like me, you're drinking a 30-pack a day. And then next thing you know, you're freaking adding in a pint of vodka to that a day. And then next thing you know, you're freaking throwing shots of whatever the fuck in your coffee in the morning just to stop shaking. So yeah, you know, you're gonna tell me that it doesn't get twice as bad. Well, every time I've relapsed, it's gotten twice as bad. And it compounds. It's like interest. Compounds annually, but except monthly. I don't know. Anyway, this is a long video, I'm sorry. But also, if you are new or just coming back, that's the other thing. You're not unique. We like to all think that we're all, you know, God's special little child, or, you know, we're the only one with the problem, or, you know, we're not as bad as this person, or we're, you know, worse than this person, or whatever. You're not fucking unique. We've all been there. There's not anything that you can say in an AA meeting or to your sponsor or whatever that is going to shock us or make us judge you or anything of the sort. We just want you to get better. We just want you to get healthy. That's the God's honest truth. The reason I do these videos, they do help me to stay sober for sure. But I don't care if I have 100 subscribers, 10 subscribers, or 10,000 subscribers. I don't care if my videos have 1 view or 5,000 views. If it saves one person's life, if it saves one person, that's all I care about. And so to the newcomer, or to the person who's relapsed and just coming back and is feeling full of guilt and shame, I've been there. I've been you. I've been scared. I've been embarrassed. But just know that it gets better, and that we all understand. We are not judging you. We want you there. We want you to come in. We want you to tell your worst story about your worst day. And we want you to know that it gets better, and you don't ever, 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 ever have to go back to that. Period. You don't. As I've said before, and I think I will keep saying, there's nothing that is going to happen today that will require you to pick up a drink. Ever again. We keep it in the day. It is one day at a time. We try not to think about the future too much. And the future has a way of getting here. But again, tomorrow makes 7 months for me. And again, as I started this video, if you were to tell me 7 months ago that my life would be the way that it is now, with all the blessings that I have, making these videos, going to AA meetings again, doing all the things, the work, the hard work, getting into therapy, facing my demons, I would have told you were freaking nuts. I would have probably fist fought you over it. But here I am. And I guess that's all I got. I just give it a shot. Give yourself a shot. You're worth it. You are 100% worth it. And if you've made it this far, because it's almost 45 fucking minutes, holy shit, like and subscribe, leave a comment. If you haven't made it this far, you're not going to see me saying this anyways. So, but thank you to everybody out there and everybody who's supported me so far in my journey. I do appreciate you all. And to the newcomer, welcome.